Fencing was erected around the area for security reasons. Hotel development, the Havenside development was completed. The pre-application meeting with DPNR and is awaiting CZM hearing date. There's a new restaurant that's coming on board at Havenside Mall. They are waiting a request to do a patio awning. The meeting is planned with Havenside Mall Association to review and approve the signage for the building. There's also a new store that opened in the Havenside Mall, My Girl's Closet. They are a spin-off from the St. Croix store. The grand opening was on Saturday, November 12, 2022. We do have some more new tenants coming online. We'll report that as a future date. As far as the historic preservation, MU was drafted and sent to the Historic Trust. We have not received a response. As far as the bronze statues in the green space, draft of MU pending internal legal sufficiency. Glad to report that in October received $128,514.92. Of that amount, $82,237.30 were for rental. Total to date, which was for the month, same amount. Our arrearages for rentals are zero. And the electrical is VI Housing Finance Authority. They have responded that they would have that check done for us by the 30th of November. Division of Personnel, GRS met with the Property Procurement and Division of Appropriate Representative to address concern with the lease. We did revisions. DOP returned the red line, and we are presently reviewing the changes, very minor changes in my estimation from what I saw. Department of Justice spoke with the Attorney General last week. Said she has a few changes. She wants to review them and get back to me. So that again, we want to make sure that we've captured everything in the release that we have captured in Division of Personnel, since they're renting just about the same size space and the same building. So we're working on getting that information for the Department of Justice, but they have paid their arrearages, both Division of Personnel and the Department of Justice. Number of active employees as of October 31, 2022, 8,903. Central government is 6,341. Others were 2,562. These are approximate numbers. Outstanding contributions, things may have changed. We do this on a monthly basis. Today is the 20th of November. This was as of October 28th. WAPA, employee contributions, outstanding $1.3 million. Exactly $1,292,342.16. Employer contributions, $7,415,397.49. Loan deductions, $161,013.08. We want to report that the current WAPA payment arrangement is posing problems with the B3 functionality, because the employee's participant account should be updated for the employee and employer contributions for the same pay date and not separately. This is creating the same issue that has occurred at Wang Louis Hospital. WAPA posting at that time in October was 35 pay days behind. As of the end of October, contributions and loan deductions are posted through 6/24/2021. However, the employee share of the contributions and the loan payments, along with some lump sum payments for the regular contributions, have been submitted. Due to the inconsistencies in submittals, the Reconciliation and Control Unit have not received the batch sheets for posting. General Accounting and Reconciliation and Control continue to post individual lump sum contributions for individual members upon notification. Roy Lester Snyder Hospital payments are not current. We have received contributions and deduction payments and electronic files through pay date 8/11/22. We may probably could have an update on this a little later if there was some. The Wang Louis Hospital contributions and loan deductions are posted through pay date 9/22/2022. However, the GFL reconciliation and posting issues for the outstanding contributions received for pay dates 2012 through 2016 have been completely reviewed internally by GRS for those payments that have been submitted. We will be speaking with Wang Louis and sharing this information with them. They have access to assist, so we are doing this. Obviously, this is going to be something that we have to do outside of our regular operation. The receipt of payments from Wang Louis have been received through October 20, 2022 for current transactions. The Department of Finance at the end of October 2022, the central government represented by DOF contributions are posted through pay date 7/28/2022 as I indicated prior. The October 2022 contributions have been received. We received funds, however, the files were not, they needed to be reconciled. They could not be posted, so we can't post, although we received the funds. So it creates a bottleneck for retirees, individuals who were planning to retire. However, DOF have been unable to reconcile its 8/11/2022 pay contribution file to present. This has been updated. They have reconciled this and submitted to us. It's presently being reviewed by the Compliance and Control Unit. We continue to work with Commissioner Bruce and a team on the reconciliation of files. This is, I'm reporting this because a lot of this sometimes have to do with retirees. The Control and Compliance and Control Officer is here today. I asked her to be present so that if there are any questions, she can respond in details. We do have untimely receipt of NOPAs. This continues to be a challenge. Department of Education and Department of Health are the two departments that poses challenges in obtaining NOPAs, Notice for Personal Actions. The Department of Health is not responsive when it pertains to updated employment information. The challenges with the Department of Education is as a result of the policy in place due to the third-party fiduciary arrangement. The goal is to have all employment information electronically uploaded to the member's account, thereby improving efficiency and accuracy to the posting process within the V3 system and moving towards a paperless environment. The latest testing of the NOPA upload file from the Division of Personnel was not successful. The employment information will be directly uploaded to the V3 by the departments and agencies. We will proceed with the other large agencies and those agencies whose form of employment documentation is an appointment letter. The objective is to move the receipt of employment information electronically in the V3. Unpaid contributions. A request is still pending from the Division of Personnel for employees whose payroll transactions are processed through DOF and no contributions were received. The request information is used to determine if there are central government employees not paying their contribution. Act number 8580. Act number 8580 allows retirees to return to work after retirement, retain their annuity, and make contribution payments to the GRS up to 36 months. GRS is working with the DOP and the autonomous agencies to identify those retirees. We are aware that there are about 4 or 5 retirees who have returned under Act number 8560, with the majority identified working with autonomous agencies. We have collaborated with our software provider to make the necessary changes to the V3, a status identifier shown as working pensioners. They should be available for testing in early December. Bonus payments. In accordance with Act number 8578, the additional bonuses payment to retirees who received bonuses in fiscal year 2018, 2019, and 2020 were paid last week as follows. 2018, net payment $108.92. In 2019, $100.20. In 2020, $156.61. And just last week, we made payment on 2021 a net payment of $98.30. The beneficiaries of the deceased retirees who received the annual VI lottery bonus for fiscal year 2018, 19, and 20, and 2021 also will receive their net payments after the due diligence protocol is completed. So we'll be issuing in 2022 very shortly in accordance with the law. Annual benefit statements. GRS goal is to issue the annual benefit statements to Tier 1 and Tier 2 members for calendar year 2022 in January 2023 or early February 2023. We are working with a software provider to complete all the necessary changes by the end of December. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the committee reports.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Nabes.
Sure.
What is the ramification of WAPA now? What is our next step? Because I mean, you're reporting the same thing all the time, and we're not seeing any light in the end of the tunnel. So what is the ramification?
As a legal case, maybe Attorney Smith, can you give an update?
Good morning. We're currently in the Superior Court. I just recently filed my request for discovery, and I have not received any request from discovery from WAPA yet. It's, you know, the case is proceeding in court, and it's a slow process.
Thank you.
You got Trustee Smith?
I'm good. I just needed an update, and I'm okay. Thanks.
Okay, committee reports. As I indicated earlier, the investment committee met on November 14th to get an update on our investments as well as risk management strategies. Any other committees? Okay.
No,
Treasurers.
I want to just mention that I was off island for a couple of days, and I expect to hold a policy committee meeting dealing with some issues in the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Good morning. I am going to share the screen.
Morning.
Okay, you're seeing the screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. This is the Treasurer's report for the GERS for the month ending October 31st, 2022. Receipts from collections, we had loan repayment of $697,850. We have employer retirement contribution of $7,434,737. We have employee retirement contributions of $4,260,291. We have the GRS bond note funding of $157,996,500 for a total collections of $171,702,430. We have disbursements, annuity payments of $22,206,706. We have the administrative expenses of $1,014,758. We have refunds of contribution totaling $750,108 for a total disbursement of $23,993,468 for a net cash surplus of $147,708,962. For the Havenside Mall, We have rents from tenants, 385,282. Total collections, 396,459. We have disbursement totaling 163,916 for a net cash surplus of 232,543. That ends the reading of the Treasurer's report, Board Chair.
Thank you. Motion?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Russell. Can I have a roll call, Mr. Nibbs?
Trustee Barry, absent. Trustee Dorsey, absent. Trustee Liger. Trustee Liger. Absent.
Yeah, Trustee Liger is here. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Trustee McDonald, absent. Trustee Russell,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Caldwell,
Yes.
4 yes, 3 absent.
Thank you. Investment Officer's report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'll share my screen. Okay, so good morning, Mr. Chair, again, members, trustees. This is the update of the investment portfolio as of October 31st, 2022. So total plan return was down slightly, negative 0.1% for the month. Our total fixed income portfolio was down slightly also, negative 0.4% for the month, but slightly outperformed its benchmark by 0.9%. Our total alternatives portfolio returned 0.5%. Both Pew Capital and BlackRock were down negative 1.3% for the month. As it pertains to the NAV cash flow, we ended the month at approximately 512.4 million. So we began the month at approximately 355.2 million. We had a net cash flow of 157,982,912. That included the funding note proceeds that we received on October 18th. We had income of about $1 million. We had an unrealized gain an unrealized loss of about 1.7 million. That brought us to that ending market value of $512.4 million for the end of October. As it pertains to fees, we paid about 50,000 calendar month to date, 373,000 calendar year to date, and of course fiscal year to date, $50,000. Year to date, we've collected about $6,000 in securities lending. I'd like to give the board to that bar chart that I usually show you on this graph. If you could see it, October 22nd, for the first time in a long time, we've actually had an uptick in the market value, in the net asset value, versus the relative year period. So that's a very good thing. I just wanted to touch on one more thing, Mr. Chairman, if I can. You spoke about it briefly in your report as it pertains to the funding. So as you know, we did receive the funding note contribution of 158 million in the month. We also finalized agreements with State Street Global Advisors, SFGA, to manage our new passive index funds that gain exposure to the approved asset allocation targets established. Our new investment policy approved by the board has a target of 65% of assets invested in equities. As you know, based on our consultants' modeling, and I've discussed at past several meetings, if we opted to stay in our current allocation of bonds and cash, it would almost certainly mean the system would become insolvent in the long term, unless there was another contribution source. The modeling assumes meeting at least a 6% annualized return over the long term, which is a bogey bonds and cash are not expected to meet. As you know, adding equities increases the expected return and improves insolvency in the long term, but does so with more volatility. So as you can see here on the chart, I'm showing prior to initially funding the new funds, we had about 200 million in investment grade bonds, which consisted of Pew Capital, which is our active fixed income manager, and BlackRock, which is our passive fixed income manager. And we had about 236 million in cash. We transferred out of cash, we transferred about $187 million. And we allocated those proceeds to US equity, international developed market equity, emerging market equity, TIPS, and high yield bonds. And you can see the totals on the screen. Also, so that brought us roughly about halfway to the halfway points of our approved target weights. So as of the end of the month, this is what our current allocation looks like. We are slated to move a next tranche, I think early in December. That's going to be a liquidation of the BlackRock fund, and we will be transitioning that fund to SSGA, same mandate. And then we'll have a third and final tranche at the end of December, which Mr. Niv spoke about in his presentation, where we'll terminate Pew Capital, which is our only active manager, and we'll also transfer those proceeds and allocate them accordingly to the current allocation policy. Mr. Chairman, that completes my presentation for the month. Right. Any questions?
Trustees, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I think the move we made needs to be explained to the public. And
sure.
Yes,
we had an investment committee meeting. That would have been the forum that. Now we have a meeting.
Oh, okay. Because I think he explained some of it, and I think but in other words, do we have a press release going out to the public explaining the change we made from bonds and everything, or is it going to be a response based on the investment committee?
That's not something I would want in a press release. The video is the recording is available. You get into trouble when you start trying to put these complex issues down into these little sound bites.
Okay. Because I think he explained it well, Mr. Henderson. Okay, I'll leave it alone. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, we have another investment committee meeting on December 14th.
Correct. We do have an investment meeting on December 13th, so the information in that meeting will be actually more current, more up to date than the stuff from the last meeting. But nonetheless, that's the forum for that. I try to run away from sound bites. Any other questions? Can I have a motion?
I move we accept the report given by Mr. Henderson.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Trustee Russell, seconded by Trustee Smith. Can I have a roll call, Mr. Nibbs?
Gowrie, absent. Trustee Dorsey, absent. Trustee Liger.
Yeah.
Trustee McDonald, absent. Trustee Russell.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Calwood.
Yes.
4 yes, 3 absent.
Okay, thank you. Next item would be SB and Company, LLC presentation of the fiscal year 2021 audit results.
Chairman Calwood, we have our new auditors, as you know, SB and Company. They're going to be presenting the results of the FY 2021 audit. Mr. Grace Smith, along with his team, will be doing that presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gray Smith, and I have two of our other engagement team members here. And what we wanted to do was to go through the audit, some information related to that. Feel free to stop us as we're going through our presentation with any questions that you have or anything that we could answer. Yeah, okay. Could see that. We'll go through it and feel free to ask questions. What we wanted to do was to talk about the scope of the services that we prepared. We want to talk about the audit results. We want to go through our audit approach related to our risk assessment, go through some very high level, the financial statements, required communications, and then in our presentation are some additional information that's going on related to the industry. We were not going to go through that, but we really had that as kind of some information for your benefit of what we wanted to do there. We were engaged to audit the financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2021. We will also be issuing a schedule of contributions and pension amounts. In order to perform our audit, we needed to understand the operations, your financial processes, and the system. And all of that was additional work that we needed to do is related to our first-time audit. We have got recommendations for improvements to your operations based on our review of the financial statements, your operations, and the process. And we're available for year-round consultation. We're planning to issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which means the financial statements as presented by management fairly presents the results of operations and financial position. This audit probably has taken a little longer than normal. And some of that is us getting our arms around some of the historical accounting and certain items related to the financial statements. We discovered no instances of fraud. Management did not make us aware of any fraud during the audit process. We have no material weaknesses in internal controls, and a material weakness would be a situation where in the normal course of operations, it would be a highly probability that management could have a material misstatement in the financial statements because of some deficiencies related to the control processes, and we found none of those. We received full cooperation with management to get through the audit process. We had access to everything that we felt we needed to have access to. We want to thank management for the patience and the time in going through the first time audit to allow us to really understand your operations and understand the historical accounting and how you got to items. And so we appreciate that also. This is a diagram of our audit approach. We call it a risk-based audit approach. Our audit is really made up of 4 different areas. With the first area was planning. That is where we understand your operations. We understand what are the items that have a higher probability of misstatement, either because of how the numbers are accounted for or the inherent nature related to the account. We also understand what are things that were going on during the year that could have a significant effect on the financial statements, so that we could make sure that we would develop an audit plan to pay specific attention to those items, as well as the normal processing and all. The next part is our preliminary testing, and that's where we go through and understand the risks that we identify in the financial statements. What is it that management does to mitigate that risk so that you wouldn't have misstatements in the financial statements? Then what we do is we review those procedures to understand how management designed or planned to have operations work. Was that how they were actually working during the year? And then we do testing of transactions throughout the year to determine if that was being performed throughout the year. The next stage of our audit is the final field work, and that's where we go and substantiate balances, where we would go through and verify ending balances in the financial statements, look at support for transactions, perform predictive or analytical procedures to really identify what were the potential errors that would be included within the financial statements. And that leads us to the final phase, which is drafting our report, some of the final GAS requirements like, can you still see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Including GAS procedures like obtaining representation letters, updates for minutes, legal confirmation, and items of that nature. And then that leads us to produce our report on the financial statements. We're in the financial reporting and wrap-up stage of the audit right now. And so we're really looking to try to bring the audit to closure to be able to issue the statements. I won't go through every one of these, but these are the areas that we had identified as the significant risk related within the financial statements. And you can see a lot of it relates to items of like market value and related to investments. The accounting for the mall, which is a investment, another property that's included there, looking at actuarial assumptions, the completeness of participant data, looking at the funding agreement and the funding with employers. So these were items that we paid special attention to during our audit process. In our evaluation of controls, we follow the COSO model, and that model really says the first thing you evaluate is kind of the tone at the top or the control environment. And there are 5 different areas that we evaluate related to the control environment. And we concluded that the control environment was effective. The organization's got limitations related to its technology system. It is old, I know. Looking at some of the discussions, you're looking at updating that technology system. And because of that technology system, it presents some operation challenges, but management have worked around those through manual procedures that they perform. In our testing of controls, we look at monitoring. That is how management goes through and makes sure the controls are working, as well as monitoring the operating results related to expectations. We look at pervasive controls and specific controls, which are controls related to the individual transactions that are processing. And the next slide actually identifies the key processes that we went through and evaluated those processes to really determine whether the individual processes were designed and operating effectively. You can see on the design of the controls, and I've got other slides on this I will get, you can see that we've identified the designs were effective, and that is what management is intent, the procedures to put in place were working. We do have some recommendations for opportunities for improvement related to the operations of controls. None of those controls were at an area that we would identify those as significant deficiency or identified as material weaknesses. but that we did identify areas for improvement. Some of those were related to just, I guess, historical transactions and cleanups, and some of those were the results of some of the limitations of the accounting system. I won't go through each of the functions in the cycle, but we look at the financial reporting cycle, which is related to producing financial statements, the estimations of how do you go about determining the significant estimates in the financial statements, the treasury function, which relates to cash forecasting, accounting for investments, the contributions from employers and employees, which is related to determining the amount of money that is required to be collected, verifying that you collected the correct amount of money, and collecting that money and recording it in the general ledger. The payroll process of paying employees, the process of paying other non-payroll related expenses, the calculation of benefit payments and paying benefits, the calculation of fixed assets, and that's building and operating assets that are included, and the distinction between fixed assets and investment assets, looking at compliance requirements, looking at the participant data and maintaining the participant data, looking at the servicing of loans for the loans that you make, looking at actuarial information and evaluation and related to those assumptions that have been made, and the IT information related to cyber and controls over your data processing center. Next, what I was going to do was have Tiana walk through the recommendations that we had as a result of our audit process.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone. So using that tool that Greg walked through, we've identified certain areas that we believe could overall improve the operations of the system. The first one relates to financial reporting. And as Greg mentioned, some of the historical balances or activity that was inside of the financial statements, some of those being, historical receivables, some of the accrued expenses, and escrow accounts related to some of the loans. And so our recommendation there is just really ensuring that those accounts are, taken a look at and doing a reconciliation, really to be able to identify what is this historical information, and determining that those balances are accurate at the end of each reporting period. The next one relates to the mall. There are a couple items in the accounting for Haven site. The first one is just that the appraisal of that asset has not been performed in some time. And so we do just recommend having a current, more recent appraisal to ensure that the valuation of that asset is accurate and up to date. The next item with the mortgages and the loans, again here, understanding historical balances and information, there is a subsidiary ledger that is, holding the individual loans, by person, and wanting to be able to do a reconciliation between the subsidiary ledger and the general ledger, and having a reconciliation or documentation of any unreconciled differences at the end of each reporting period. The next item, as we move into the actuarial assumptions, again here, spending time understanding the use of the specialist, the various assumptions that were used within the actuarial evaluation, it did come to our attention that there has not been a updated study done, an experience study. So again, wanting to make sure that you have the most recent and latest inputs to ensure evaluation, that is as accurate as it can be and reflective of the experience of the current demographics that's covered under the plan. Going back to the mall and its accounting, again, as Gray mentioned, taking a look at those capital assets and being able to distinguish between your investing assets as well as, those that are your traditional or typical fixed assets. Here, spending time understanding the accounting and really making sure that all of the related activity for Haven Site is included within the financial statements. There were some receivables or due froms that have been historically reported. And again, just making sure that even things such as rental income is reported net of the related expenses on an ongoing basis. And that just helps, to improve the accuracy of the net investments of the system. Staying in line with Haven Site, again, there were some cash accounts, some other assets. Again, making sure that all of those are properly reported. A lot of it was presentation or reclasses that were necessary. But again, it just improves the financial reporting of the organization. A couple items for IT, just making sure, that there's a disaster recovery plan in place. And with that plan, you want to make sure that you're also testing that plan and, restoring any backups, making sure that your information would be usable in the event of any disruption of the technology environment. Again, you'll want to make sure that you're doing different network scans, being able to understand the vulnerabilities within the technology. And then one of the things that we looked at this year, just given the current climate, is cybersecurity preparedness. And again, just making sure that the system has processes in place to have a risk assessment in the event that there is a disaster or there is any type of disruption, that there is a plan in place to obtain and restore all of the system's information and having ways in place to minimize loss or death. I won't spend a lot of time on the next couple of slides. One of the things that we like to do is include a 3-year trend of the financial statements within the materials. Their management does also have a full draft of the financial statements, including the required footnote disclosures. But here we've just included a summary of the statement of planned fiduciary position, the statements of changes in planned fiduciary position for the most recent 3 years, as well as a summary of the actuarial information and some of the key components that are in the net pension liability. Next slide, please. The next slide, on slide 19, is a summary of the actuarial assumptions. Again, we talked about the fact that these assumptions, were, looked at by management and approved, but also that the experience of the information in here is about 3 to 4 years old. But again, taking a look at the use of specialists, understanding the rest of the assumptions that were used to build the net pension liability, and not having any exceptions or taking any exceptions to the information other than the recommendation that an updated experience study be used. Here, just one of the subsequent events that is included within the financial statements relates to the funding notes that was entered into. Again, it's being looked at as a subsequent event. And here is just the accounting of what we're expected to see when we get to the September 30, 2022 financial reporting, and just being able to give some information on the GAAP accounting for this type of funding arrangement and how it is that these amounts will be recorded for 2022. But for 2021, it's just a footnotes disclosure. I believe it's found in the MD&A as well as the overall footnotes to the financial statements. I'll stop here for a minute. Did you want to do the required communications?
Yes.
Okay. Here, we spend a lot of time talking through lots of other information, but we do just want to have our required communications with you. And here's just where, we let you know that the financial statements really were the responsibility of management. our responsibility was to review the accounting policies and practices and determine, whether or not those practices and policies were in accordance with US GAAP. We didn't have any audit adjustments that we proposed to management and that management rejected. All adjustments have been included within the financial statements. Management did not make us aware of any fraud or illegal acts. Our audit was not a fraud audit, but just through, due to the healthy skepticism and types of questions and the risk-based approach, sometimes we could uncover fraud, but our audit was not a fraud audit. As Gray mentioned, there were no material weaknesses identified in the internal control environment. We didn't have any disagreements or significant difficulties getting through the audit. At the end of the audit, we will circulate something that's called a representation letter. And in that's where management will represent back to us that they've provided us with all the necessary information, access to personnel, documents, and records in order to produce or opine on the financial statements in the way in which we did. We're not aware of any other consultation with other auditors to obtain a different opinion than the one that we have rendered. Each year we go through a process to make sure that we are independent of our clients. And so here's just where I represent to you that SB and Company is independent of the system. We don't perform any non-attest or non-audit services. If we did, this is where I would make you aware of those. I've talked about the subsequent events that will be included within the financial statements. And again, we weren't made aware of any fraud or illegal acts, but this is just a slide that I like. It just kind of reminds everyone, the responsibilities related to fraud and to not take fraud for granted, that fraud could occur at any organization by any person at any time. And so just, really understanding the pressures, the opportunities and the rationalization, not just us as the auditors, but, management and the types of policies and procedures that they put in place, as well as governance and the types of questions and, that they're asking and the satisfaction of those responses that they've received. As Gray mentioned, the last few slides is just some industry updates. We won't spend time going through those, but do just like to leave, some of the things that are on the horizon or some of the expected changes, whether from the actuarial assumptions or things related to ARPA and other things in the industry. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, that's our formal presentation. And now what we will do is entertain any questions that you have about the audit process, the results of the year, or anything else that we could address.
I'm good. Anybody have questions? Seems like we're all good.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, we're good. No questions on our end.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And last thing at the back of there, we've got our contact information also. And so we work for you as the board. So anytime you've got any questions or anything that you would like for us to pay attention to or a discussion with us, feel free to contact us at any time. And I want to, again, thank management for their cooperation through the audit process. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
All right, and on behalf of the board and the system, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for the agenda. Have a motion to adjourn?
I just want to mention, Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, that management will be responding to the recommendations that they made. I think some of them are in process. In regards to like the cybersecurity, we did have mandatory training for all the employees. So, but we'll respond to the board in regards to the recommendations that were made.
All right, thank you.
The chair make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, please.
I make a motion
Yes.
to adjourn.
The second?
I second.
All right. Roll call, Mr. Nips.
Trustee Barry, absent. Trustee Dorsey, absent. Trustee Liger,
Yeah.
Trustee McDonald, absent. Trustee Russell, absent. Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Calwood.
Yes.
Chairman, we lost a quorum.
All right. Thank you, folks. Meeting is adjourned. A lack of a quorum.